Imagine waking up one day to discover that, for millennia, a mighty empire had confidently ruled the universe, only to be wiped out in the blink of an eye by an ancient power brought into the light. This is not science fiction. This is the story of the human race once thought extinct returning to settle a bloody historical score, shatter every rule of the game, and unleash a nightmare upon those who once erased us from memory. In this video, we'll uncover the secret of an age-old genocide, track the ghost ships drifting through the void, and witness the life-or-death moment that will shake the entire galaxy. Ready? You won't believe what you're about to hear. In the endless night of the cosmos, the stars seem to whisper ancient tales of civilizations that once stood triumphant, only to fade into oblivion. The pale blue light of billions of distant suns scatters through storm-tossed nebulae, casting a scene at once enchanting and desolate. Thousands of alien races rose and flourishingly to spiral into brutal wars of their own making. Amid all these legends, one story is often dismissed as myth, the legend of a death, bringing species that even the elder gods of the universe feared so deeply they erased every trace of its existence. This is the tale of the Nyandaroa race, declared extinct after an age-old cataclysm. Today, their memory clings only to tattered archives and the flickering candles in the cryptic vaults of abandoned temples. No one believed they survived until the first signal blinked across the sensor screens. The Shannara Empire, which had reigned supreme for 8 millennia, gradually lost the awe it once inspired. It spanned hundreds of star systems, wielding the might of its black meteor fleet gigantic warships, capable of pulverizing a planet with a single salvo. Earth-tier technology was laughably inferior to Shannara's innovations, yet the Empire never flinched. Each new Shannara dynasty poured research into ever more powerful plasma cannons and reinforced shields, cementing their inviolable dominion. Their arrogance swelled to the point that any unusual blip on their sensors was shrugged off as the antics of insignificant upstarts. An estimated 1,000 civilizations had heard whispers of the Nyandaro, but none dared believe the tale. A belligerent species that incinerated entire worlds over a mere title dispute, the annals half-heartedly recorded. Some hypothesized they self-destructed in internecine strife, others claimed they vanished unfinished into the void. Yet the weight of ancient records favors the tragic theory. The Nyandaro were genocided by their own kin after a planet-spanning conflict. Every scrap of evidence was obliterated history, wiped clean as if they'd never existed. This very erasure lulled the Shannara elders into false complacency. They assumed their only foes were faint echoes in legendary footnotes. On a bleak dawn, the observation outpost at the edge of the Epsilon Theta binary system picked up an anomalous transmission. Over 8,000 light-years away, sensors detected a cluster of metal hulks drifting out of a cosmic current. The signature was faint, but unmistakably deliberate. This was no pirate skiff or routine probe. It was an echo from a past they thought buried beneath mists of time. Station Commander Lieutenant VM Thon trembled as her finger hovered over the star map. The blurred, oscillating blip didn't match any vessel in the logs. She ordered an immediate report to the High Celestial Command. That very night, the Black Meteor Fleet 3 dreadnoughts of the Draconic class launched into the void. In the command deck, Admiral Huck Lair sneered disdainfully. One concentrated plasma strike at its core, and we'll carve our glory across the galaxy. The crew watched the target feed through the viewers. As the ship's silhouette sharpened, they saw only rusted hulls, pieced together from ancient Alloy's war relics left to rot for 1,000 generations. A forge of destruction long cold. Huck Lair leaned into the comms. Just so much scrap drifting on the frontier. Execute the order, annihilate. A strange, deep voice crackles over the Shannara comlink. We are the Nyandaro. Surrender or be destroyed. Its icy tone, utterly unflinching, makes Huck Lair freeze. None of his channels pick up any familiar linguistic patterns. Mechanics. How can it sound as if reconstructed from memories buried in our very genes? His crew falls silent. The rusted hulk drifts forward with uncanny grace, dancing through the plasma salvo that's about to erupt. their confidence vanishes, replaced by a growing unease. This enemy is neither ancient nor diminished, and it will not be easily crushed. Admiral Huck Lair orders a salvo of high-grade plasma at the intruder's prow. The shockwave rattles every meter of steel, overloading the ship's systems and forcing the Draconic-class dreadnought to recoil at the very first blast. "What the hell is happening?" he snarls. Sensors report wholesale plasma reflection, and Shannara's weapon controls jam violently, the entire bridge trembling. Meanwhile, the Nyandaro's sleek vessels weave through the gaps like weightless phantoms. Within seconds, the great dreadnought's main cannon detonates catastrophically, debris shredding the void. Lieutenant Nahan, commanding the enemy flagship, watches the explosion through an armored viewport with a cold smile. He observes a kinetic slug missile streak in, tearing through the thick armor. Unlike blazing plasma, kinetic rounds leave no plasma-bloomingly devastating penetrative force enough to exploit the slightest weakness. Glowing metal shards float in silent chaos, a surreal tableau of destruction. After an hour of combat, Admiral Huck Lair goes dark. Even his executive officer is incinerated when a medical support unit spontaneously detonates. The enemy is utterly annihilated. Word of the ghost victory spreads like wildfire across every Shannara satellite. Draconic dreadnought, 3 lost contact, power failure, unknown cause. Yet none who witnessed the skeletal wreck drift apart in the dark can ever forget it. A wave of terror seeps into every heart. From research institutes to the highest council chambers, officials shudder at the enemy's emotionless proclamation. "We have returned." At the summit of power, the Supreme Council of Shannara convenes in haste under Admiral Trum Lin, longtime political advisor. The tactical map glows red, marking each lost fleet. "We cannot allow this absurdity to continue for another moment." Council President Bark Thun intones, eyes sweeping the room. "Deploy the giant fortresses with the Phantom Marines. Immediate apply relentless pressure." The order goes out like a torrent, but many within still doubt. How can this foe wield such merciless tactics? And from what boundless source do they draw their strength? While Shannara's leaders scrambled for a solution, the Nyandaro widened their assault. Deadly spirals of plasma tore through the electrostatic field around the supply station, obliterating weapon caches. Using their ghost tactics, they appeared without warning, vanished like smoke, then reappeared elsewhere, turning every Shannara soldier's nightmare into reality. They offered no parley, no surrender. Each shot was a verdict, each explosion a brutal reminder of humanity's self-sacrificing power. The Supreme Council convened an emergency session amid palpable crisis. Trum Lin rapped his finger on the table. This is no ordinary war. They observe no conventions. A mechanical arm projected a hologram of the battlefield. Shannara's elite forces lay shattered. Even the siege ships fell victim to kinetic slugs. Over 20 forward stations reported catastrophic damage. Bark Thun sighed deeply. "We were far too confident, dismissing these ghosts of the past. We must uncover their secretor. Everything will fall." From the shadowed corner of the chamber, Admiral Huang Lerth, Navy's veteran commander, growled, "I move that we unlock the top-secret archives. There may yet be clues about the Nyandao." The Council's clandestine team swiftly accessed ancient records sealed with sacred ciphers. None knew their full contentedly legends of the Mert Chi Dung Han, the global chronicle of the Nyandaro genocide. Some counselors wept as they revisited the horrific memories: unconditional extermination orders, merciless slaughter. By the dim light of the restricted reading room, President Bark Thun trembled as he held the rust-stained dossier. The first page bore the date, year 304 of the Shannara era. Blood-soaked entries detailed the extermination directive. Total annihilation of any world showing signs of Nyandao resurgence. Descriptions of the nuclear strike on Nova. Seven's atmosphere flames, spreading like a sea of blood, etched themselves into his mind. Row after row of cold text recounted how millions were buried alive. All records had been expunged from the official archives. Supreme Chancellor Thien Huth, highest spiritual authority, stood alone in the hollow chamber, eyes haunted. After millennia of warfare, He believed he had witnessed every atrocity. Yet never, even in his worst nightmares, had he encountered genocide documented with such chilling precision. He choked on his words, voice quavering, "We have committed the unforgivable." The room fell into stunned silence, scarred by the weight of their collective guilt. At the far edge of the galaxy, a new flotilla of the Nyandaro quietly took shape. The sovereign armada, hundreds of phoenix-sized warships, radiated a blinding aura. Crews, clad in exosuits, moved with silent grace through the engine bays. Major General Na Han issued her command, "Engage stealth mode, prepare to breach Celeste Prime's orbit." Complete the reckoning. The clash of metal rang out like a frigid symphony, heralding an unprecedented fury. Celeste Prime's seat of power for the Shannara Empire was shielded by dense arrays of energy barriers. The command deck shuddered as radar detected swarms of stealth microcraft incoming. The giant artillery turrets sat idle, still recharging. Moments later, orbital guard posts erupted in rapid succession. The brilliant plasma shields fractured into kaleidoscopic rainbows of light and debris. The night sky above Celeste Prime ignited with lethal streaks of electricity. Shannara interceptors scrambled too late. Nyandaro exosuited troops had already secured the newly developed kinetic rounds and systematically dismantled each anti-air battery. They targeted the central reactor, aiming to sever the city's shield power. When the cobalt plasma blast rippled outward, the majestic fortress trembled and its crystal dome imploded. Millions of Shannara citizens panicked, fleeing beneath a downpour of ash and dust. Without awaiting a ceasefire, Nyandaro infantry poured onto the surface. Drop pods pierced the atmosphere, detonating in black plumes beside the command tower. Exosuited squads materialized, kinetic rifles, unleashing relentless volleys that pierced every concrete reinforced structure. Shannara troops trained for long-range combat found themselves helpless in close quarters. Screams and gunfire melded into a deafening maelstrom. In the central district, Nyandaro forces concentrated their assault on the regional military headquarters. No one was taken alive, no terms of Faradinly merciless cleansing. Support drones formed containment perimeters, firing laser nets to spare civilians where possible. But for Shannara's highest leaders, there was no mercy. They were dragged through hellish gates into secret dungeons and executed on the spot. The column of white smoke rising from the central plaza seared itself into the memory of every witness. With no path left, Supreme Chancellor Thien Huru and his closest faithful convened in the hidden bunker below. Explosions above rattled the walls like hell itself breaking loose. He resolved to trigger the Destruction Code, the system that would launch every nuclear warhead across the hemisphere, eradicating all life should the Empire collapse. In that moment, the last spark of Shannara's soul hesitated. Though betrayed and battered by history's cruelty, they still yearned to protect their homeworld. But Na Hunkold as Ice snarled, "If there is no future, then make them the past." As Thien Hur's trembling hand touched the orange activation button, the bunker door exploded inward in a flash of light. 3 exosuit-clad warriors stormed in, each bearing the humanity emblem, the letter H, blazing on their armor. Major General Nahan stepped forward, drawing an ancient plasma dagger and leveling it at Thien Hur's heart. "The time to repay history's debt has come." His voice thundered like a final verdict. In that instant, Thien Hur realized even planetary annihilation could never atone for genocide. High-ranking officers of the Shannara Empire were then marched to the central plaza, where hundreds of thousands of citizens had gathered in stunned silence. There was no plea for mercy. No chance to surrender, only the echo of single-shot volleys. Black smoke from puissant rifles curled through the crimson light of the dawn, and a solemn hush fell over the crowd as they witnessed the tragic requiem of a fallen realm. Before a galaxy-spanning broadcast, Nahan appeared on every screen, his tone icy yet resolute. "The Shannara Empire has died for the crime of genocide. They erased our memory, but we never forgot. Today, we deliver justice and freedom to every world that once bowed under their tyranny. The Nyandaro seek no new empire. We merely restore the balance of the cosmos." The transmission ended, leaving an ominous echo across the stars. Worlds that once trembled before Shinara's divine mandate now staggered into an age of liberation. New alliances sprang up, and long-hidden planets threw open their gates to diverse cultures. The Yundaro vanished once more into the darkness of space, leaving behind their legacy. Justice enacted, justice restored. The universe, its sole ruler, now the equilibrium between species, between memory and truth, had turned a page into a chapter not of blood-soaked genocide, but of hope reborn from the shadows. Thank you for watching until the very end. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming videos. Leave a comment to share your thoughts, and feel free to share this video if you found it helpful. See you on our next adventure.